As promised, Brian Hayes and his panel.
All right, thanks, James. Thanks, Gino, as well. All right, thank you, Gino, with Emily and Carlo again. Speaking of buyer's remorse, lots of money's been splashed around, right? But when you look at the highest cap hit so far, Gensel at $9 million, Reinhart $8.65, Steven Stamkos, Nashville had to bid for him. They paid him $8 million per. You look back on what some teams decided to do during the year. Toronto with William Nylander, they jumped in front of this. They didn't want to wait until July 1st. 8 years, $11.5 million. Elias Pettersson in Vancouver, they didn't want to wait until June 30th or July 1st. 8 years, $11.6 million. If you're in Vancouver, if you're in Toronto, and you're looking at the money that got splashed around today to very good players, are you having buyer's remorse that you didn't wait and possibly negotiate differently?
I think there has to be a little bit of buyer's remorse because you're wondering if maybe you could have got the player a little bit cheaper. But you look at these two teams, they believe they've locked up some significant players, elite players within their organization. But when you're seeing the money being spent today, it's almost like the housing market, Hayes. Your house is only worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it. You may know what you think it's worth, but if somebody else isn't willing to pay it, then it's not worth that much. So you got to think those teams right now, seeing the money that's spent, a 50-goal scorer in Sam Reinhart got less than $9 million.
Yep.
There has to be buyer's remorse today.
Absolutely, and it's a hypothetical, Emily, but I guess if they were to take their time in Vancouver, is Pettersson getting more than 11.6 based on the way he played down the stretch and into the playoffs? Is William Nylander getting more than 11.5? Why did they have to do that in the past as opposed to wait?
I don't think you can have buyer's remorse in this situation because you do the best job you can with the best information you have at the time, but also the dynamics at play. If you think about both of these contract situations, they were high-pressure situations. Both of these players had agents who really wanted to grind it out. It was getting to the season where it's becoming a distraction. The front office had to do something to keep these high-priced talent or high-talented players there. But the biggest thing that we haven't mentioned, it's the elephant in the room, it's the fact that these are Canadian markets. And the three players that you mentioned that got far less money are playing in no-tax states here in the United States. I said in our earlier segment when I talked about the Senators, I think there is a tax to play in a Canadian market. You're getting taxed higher literally, but also you sometimes have to overpay in term as well as money just because of the scrutiny that you get playing in Canada. So, if you look at the Maple Leafs and their core right now, they're doing the best they can to do around it. Is anyone saying, oh, Willie Nylander is the problem? No, he's the player that consistently shows up in the playoffs. Elias Pettersson, we'll see how that turns out, but he proved to be a pretty good player. I don't think they can have buyer's remorse. I think the only remorse they have is with your government there in Canada.
Yeah, that's fair, and I don't think we're going to delve into that today. I think that's probably going to take a little bit longer than what we have in terms of what is in store this afternoon. But you're right in terms of the pressure that comes with playing in Canada, also the pressure that goes on these players. They got to step up, right? Willie's got to step up in Toronto. Pettersson's got to step up in Vancouver. That's why they got the money. The expectations are high. They're great players. And they have great players around them, and they're on good teams. Toronto's a good team. Vancouver's a good team. Those guys are going to be asked to do a lot moving forward.
And there's a risk you take, too, with these Canadian teams, as Emily mentioned, is the further you take them closer to free agency, the risk you take is losing these players for nothing. And as a Canadian team, those are hard pills to swallow.
Yeah, and both teams decided, and the players, to be fair, let's lock this in. Let's do it long term.
Deal with it.
Deal with it. Absolutely.